All right, so here we go. Yes, I have some very good news about Stalker 2 today, but also some bad news we have to go over. And some fans have called out the dev team, pointing out what they're calling red flags before the game even releases. But is there really anything to this at all? Well, don't panic, because there's a lot of counter arguments to these so-called red flags I'm going to go over in just a moment. But why have we not seen recorded gameplay from journalists and YouTubers? Why is it all B-roll from the dev team? Where's the uncut gameplay? And what's the deal with the review embargo? There's definitely a silver lining here and an explanation to all of this. Just let me explain in just a moment. And this game is absolutely massive, as the devs have revealed how much hard drive space you'll need. And some players are calling out, hey, this looks like it is not an optimized game at all based on how much space is required here. But there's far more of a reason why this game is so very big. And we got some benchmark tests on PC, by the way, and this stirs up the conversation if this game is optimized or not, based on fake frames, frame generation, and all that good stuff. A lot to talk about there. And remember, I'm doing a very big Stalker 2 giveaway, so for a chance to win a copy of the game, see that top pinned comment down below. Check that out. But yeah, we're going to go over your top comments as well later in the video. But I say we rip off the band-aid here real quick. The bad news, check it out right here. It says there'll be no preload. The developer has confirmed it. Here's the proof from their Discord. And if we go over here, yes, we do have the official response from the actual dev here saying that, yeah, don't expect preload on PC, which is a total bummer considering how big this game actually is. More on that in just a moment, but we got to talk about what some players are calling red flags. So yes, check it out right here. It says, red flag, still no raw, unedited gameplay, embargo lift unknown. Perhaps there's an actual explanation to this. Stick with me. It says, more and more, I'm starting to believe that the game is not in a state that would be deemed ready for release. So far, it's still only been short clips of gameplay that's been given to the media to show short segments and unedited bits that they've shown in previews. Actually, they haven't been short at all, by the way. And there have been long-winded segments that you can clearly see, like the open world being explored. And I also think that they are being careful with what they are showing as well. I don't think they want to show too much. Now, let's get further into this, because I do understand some of the concerns here, given the history of games, releasing these flashy trailers and then how they ultimately have turned out. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I do get that, but let's keep going. And he goes on to say, not showing off your game freely this close to release is a bad sign, real bad sign. Because now the marketing machine should be spinning at capacity, and yet still, they're basically keeping at all behind closed curtains, apart from what has been diligently selected to be shown. I hope I'm wrong, but it doesn't make any sense. And it tells me there's some real big issues still unresolved. Might be performance, general bugs, or unfinished content that previewers would stumble on. That's why they're not allowing raw gameplay to be shown. 6 days out and still no raw gameplay. Also, no info on when the review embargo is being lifted. And there's already been some counter arguments to this. They literally did show raw gameplay in the deep dive, though. I'm starting to think you all just are being negative for the sake of it. And yeah, if you go over here, this is like a 35-minute video showcasing a lot of gameplay. And to touch base as to why, you're not seeing raw gameplay from YouTubers or journalists, I think that there's also something else that has been developing on the side of developers, a trust issue with how their game is going to be demoed or displayed by certain journalists. We've seen journalists get their hands on games before release, and they absolutely suck at the game, and they do not represent the game properly whatsoever. And it's actually a disservice to the devs that have worked so hard on the game. So I'm sure that this dev team might be a little bit cautious as how they want to show their game. They want to show it how it should be played, how it should be represented. I think that makes a lot of sense in that regard. And you got to consider that the dev team has been working on this game and pouring their heart and souls into this game for years and years. And this particular dev team, they have been through absolute hell developing this game. And I think they're going to be a little bit protective of their work, of course, and they want it demoed the way they want it demoed. It's definitely a tough one. At the end of the day, we'll have to wait and play it for ourselves and see how it pans out. But so far, they have shown a great deal of gameplay. And again, I think they don't want to pull back the curtain completely. They want to keep things surprising, even when it comes to exploring the open world itself. So yeah, I just think there's a lot more to this, and it's a lot more of a nuanced discussion than just calling out a dev team and saying, hey, they're being scam artists, not showing us everything. I do get the concerns, but we got to talk about the storage space issue, and I'm talking about hard drive space in particular. It says Stalker 2 PC specs require a ton of storage space, but surprisingly modest hardware. Now, if you're wondering how much space it requires 160 gigabytes. That is absolutely massive. And once again, players calling out the dev team. 160 gigabytes screams unoptimized, lazy devs. The 160 gigabyte already indicates that this game is not optimized at all by any means. It's a shame because I like the atmosphere of this game, but the visuals don't look really next gen, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to continue reading that. I think the visuals look absolutely stunning, by the way. However, we do have this insight right here. Perhaps judgment should be withheld until people have a chance to see for themselves. Stalker 2 is going to be a very big game. The playable area is 5 to 6 times the size of Fallout 4, or alternatively, about 80% the size of Red Dead 2. You guys can see that this game is a behemoth of a game. In that area, there is said to be over 100 hours of content, not to mention plenty of unscripted AI activity. That would mean probably over 100 missions, side quests, odd jobs, and innocuous tasks. Hundreds of different NPCs, many of which will have unique voice lines in 2 languages, animations, and all of the texture and mesh data to make up the world and the item and creatures within it. And he does caution that he's lowballing here as not to seem as exaggerating or needlessly hyping. If I may speak to my own opinion, using Red Dead as an example, that game was 120 gigabytes. Yes, it's probably a bigger game and has 10 times the production value and budget, but regardless of the fact, I thought it was a downright excellent game. And I say that as someone who has very strong opinions about the company that makes it. 120 gigabytes wasn't even on my radar of things I cared about. This was an excellent take here. And I also got to say, we're even lucky Stalker 2 exists, given the circumstances that this game was developed in. It is a miracle that this game is releasing at all. So, kudos to the dev team for even pulling it off at all. So yeah, I'm happy that this game even exists. That's like my biggest point out of all of this. So yeah, a little word of warning, make sure you have 160 gigabytes of hard drive space. By the way, they do recommend an SSD. And mentioning recommendations, check it out right here. We have the Stalker 2 PC requirements. You guys can pause the screen if you have missed this already. I'm sure some of you have already seen this. But you have your low, medium, and high, and epic settings as well. And a very important note here, yes, there is a driver update out right now for Stalker 2. Make sure you update your drivers before November 20th to have the optimized experience. So yeah, and we also have some benchmark testing straight from NVIDIA. I'm more curious about what Digital Foundry finds, by the way, with this sort of stuff. However, yeah, you can see here you have DLSS 3 on and off. You guys can pause the screen to get an idea of how the game is running, and I'll source this in the description as well so you can read the article for yourself. It's a quick read, but this definitely did stir up some discussion if we head on over to the forums. Some people are saying, so 96 FPS with 4060 Ti in the max graphics in 1080p, not really bad. Then some people are saying DLSS 3 and more fake frames with FG enabled. And we have this take here, unstable engine 5, garbage engine, looks mediocre, runs like dog crap. I bet there's traversal stutter in there too. You just can't assume things like that. You have to get your hands on the game. So far from what we're seeing with the gameplay, I hope there's no stutters, but it looks very smooth with actually traversing the world. But we're having a mixed opinion already on how people are feeling about the benchmark testing. So I am curious to see what happens. And another take here, some optimism. It says it is running with ray tracing on its Unreal software version, which is fairly inferior to anything NVIDIA, unfortunately. With that said, it's amazing performance considering the engine scope of the game and graphics. A normal person wouldn't even consider not playing it without DLSS frame gen anyways. It's not even running DLSS, but DLDSR, which is insane to even think about. So ultimately, I do think that this game is going to be seeing some performance updates post-launch, several updates in fact. I would not be surprised if this game wasn't the absolute most optimized game of all time, given the state at which it was developed in. You have to consider that with this game no matter what. It is a very unique development situation for sure. But this article definitely fascinated me right here. It says Stalker 2 is going to turn a lot of people off, and that's a good thing. So let's check this out right here. It goes on to say the following: the zone isn't for everyone. So it says Stalker 2 spits in the face of that trajectory, taking us simultaneously back in time and directly into the future with its free-form exploration, challenging combat, and a player experience that seldom pushes you in a specific direction. I already like the sound of it. The zone is your oyster, and in 2025, it defies any and all convention. Whether that will result in global success or niche appeal seems unclear, and I'm proud of GSC Game World for sticking to its creative vision, even if it pushes people away. I love that. I love that they have really doubled down on what they do best, creating this, very kind of oppressive yet beautiful survival experience that is very, very hardcore. And I think that's what players want. They don't want a watered down experience. But again, it's not going to be for everyone. It is apparently going to be very hardcore. It also goes on to say this: you don't need to play Stalker 2 in a specific way. Quite the opposite. But no matter how you decide to begin your journey in the zone, you will be met with friction. During the preview, there were a few times in which I saw an abandoned hut on the horizon and decided to check it out, only to be ambushed by a pack of wild dogs or rogue mercenaries eager to grant me death. Yeah, enemies in this are going to be fast and ferocious and very, very deadly. And again, stealth might be the go-to option, especially if you got to conserve ammo and your your weapons durability as well. So yeah, there's a lot to consider in this game. It's not just a Call of Duty run gun type experience whatsoever. And I think that is actually going to throw off some players that just immediately hop into this game. But anyway, let's go over your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video, so let's do this. All right, so yeah, remember, I am still doing that Stalker 2 giveaway. Look for this pinned comment in this video as well for a chance to enter that. Now, it says this must be what astronauts feel like a week from launch. Hell yes, the excitement. I'm going to be disappointed if there aren't pseudo dogs that can pounce on you from 80 yards away. New players need to understand what that's like. Dear God. Dude, honestly, I think with just updated graphics, they can keep the AI from the original games and people would be happy as hell. This gives me a lot of hope. I'm curious to see if they've been able to fine-tune the AI even further from the Stalker 1 games. They are calling it AI Life 2.0, so it sounds like they have done that. We shall see, but hopefully the AI is the one thing that's super impressive about this game. Crossing my fingers that is the case and as advertised. Also, we have this one right here. This game was developed by people who love their country, their history, and most importantly, their own game. The developers grew up with the zone. They created the Stalker zone as we know and love it. That's their baby, and unlike other AAA developers, they just want to deliver the game that deserves the name Stalker. Hell yes, that was so well said. That's how I'm feeling about it as well. And I'm going to sit here and give them a moment to prove themselves, at least at launch. Let's get our hands on the game. Give us a moment so we can see what's going on for ourselves. Yeah, we'll be finding out here. Wow, it is very, very close to release. Remember, November 20th. So I have all the news and latest happenings around Stalker 2. So be sure to stay tuned for more. Smack that subscribe button. If you are new, I have you guys covered on this one. And yeah, I do hope to actually cover some of the modding related to this game as well. There should be a very big modding scene going on with this one, because it's going to have really big mod support. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.